Really interesting fight at women's flyweight. We have cast iron Courtney Casey representing Arizona taking on JJ Aldrich out of Colorado. And Matt, both of these women coming out of really good gyms. I mean, we've seen it with JJ Aldrich. Obviously, the connection with Jourdain close. But as far as the gyms in and around the Phoenix area, MMA labs, so on and so forth, Fight Ready as well. A lot of good training partners in that area. You look at it for JJ Aldrich, training out of Elevation and some of the associated gyms in Colorado. I know Shanna Dobson, one of the names that pops off the page, Mallory Martin as well. A little bit of a connection there with Pauliana Viana between those two women. Maybe JJ Aldrich didn't get Mallory ready for that fight in time, but there's a lot of, pedigree, I should say, in the gym of both of these women. And for JJ Aldrich, you look at it in total, man, the UFC marketed her a lot. Like, she was on UFC 227, and not like the prelims or the early prelims. They made you pay for her fight at UFC 227. She was at UFC 246, not as a fan, but she was on the prelims of that card. Like, JJ Aldrich has had a little bit of a promotional bump. If you look at it, 3-2 in her last 5, you look at some of the wins. I mean, Danielle Taylor, Pauliana Viana, she got knocked out by Macy Barber. She beat Lauren Mueller. She lost to Sabina Mazo by split decision. And if you go back and look at that, MMA decisions, really, the MMA media members weren't all that split. It had actually gone a lot in the favor of Aldrich. If you look at just the numbers on UFC stats, I mean, Mazo way outstruck Aldrich. But really, to me, it was the footwork, the pressure, and some of the combinations for Aldrich that made more of an impact. And even still, Mazo led in significant strikes, but it was Aldrich with the pressure that really kind of won a lot of people over in that one.
And that fight really proves that not all significant strikes are created equal, because Sabina Mazo, although she is a really good striker, there's not a ton of pop behind her shot. And I'm not here to tell you JJ Aldrich is going to start starching fools left, right, and center like she's Francis Ngannou, but when she does connect with shots, you can tell there's an effect behind it. She's a very heavy-handed striker for this division, and it is kind of unfortunate that a lot of people remember her for her loss to Macy Barber, because she does fight in a somewhat similar style to a Macy Barber, where she's going to go out there, she's a bit more of a brawler than she is a technician, has good takedown defense. The thing for Aldrich, though, is you can overwhelm her with volume, and I hate to use the example of Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan, but just hear me out for 2 seconds. When you do throw a lot, she will just keep her hands up, and she won't throw counters back. And you saw that a lot. When Aljo was throwing, it's not that he was landing every time, but when he was throwing, it was at least keeping Petr Yan from retaliating with his own shots. And you can keep JJ Aldrich somewhat off her front foot, just off her game, if you can throw a lot of volume. And Courtney Casey, her striking's odd, because in some fights, she can kind of follow that game plan, and she will throw a lot of punches. And then in other fights, look at the Felice Herrig fight, for instance, she just waits a lot. And if she is on her back foot and waiting for the fight to come to her, this is not the opponent to try to get away with that, because someone like Aldrich, she is going to be able to get on the inside at a certain point and land to the body and to the head. And for Courtney Casey, I think she does have some tools that can counter that offense and the aggressiveness from Aldrich. But physically, I do think Casey's going to struggle with someone like JJ Aldrich, who is the more physical fighter out of the two. And in my mind, I do think Courtney Casey's going to have to get a takedown at some point in this fight. I think she's more than capable of getting a takedown. She has really good trips from the clinch. She has a decent single leg as well. But in my mind, you've really got to try to mix things up. Because if the striking of Casey, if she is trying to be overconfident, if she is going to stand in the pocket with someone like Aldrich, again, I'm not here to predict a TKO by Aldrich, but you're definitely going to see the effects of the shots of Aldrich a lot more than you will from the ones of Casey.
Neither one of these women with the most overwhelming stats in the entire world. Striking accuracy for Casey. Normally, Fight Night picks, we don't go too far into these numbers, but there's a decent enough sample size. For JJ Aldrich debuted against Juliana Lima, it's been a while, back in, 2016? Wow. Fought on the Ultimate Fighter Season 23, had a win over Christy Lopez, and a loss to Tatiana Suarez. And that's kind of the thing. For JJ Aldrich, it's been highs and lows, and some of the wins, maybe not the highest quality of opponent, would you say?
No, not at all. And it really is the story of two different careers, because Courtney Casey, she's kind of in the same boat. When she does fight the upper echelon, she doesn't always win. It's just Courtney Casey seems to always be in there with a top 10 opponent. And that's the crazy thing. If you are on the side that experience means a lot in the cage, and listen, it really does, Courtney Casey has the experience X factor going into this fight. And even look at some of the fights that she's lost in the past. I always think of the Michelle Waterson fight. It's always the first one that stands out. Michelle Waterson is an elite fighter in this division, even though, listen, I didn't think she beat Angela Hill, but she is a very good top 10 fighter. Courtney Casey gave her everything that she could handle in that fight, and she really threatened a lot with her jiu-jitsu in that fight, and that's why I think the takedown is going to be so important for her.
And if you look at, again, you want to go stats, Matt, I think this one's fair. Takedown average per 15 minutes, 0.31 for both of these women. Takedown accuracy for Casey, 30%, 25% for Aldrich. 37% takedown defense for Casey, 53% for Aldrich. So again, JJ Aldrich, you might not think of her as a physical specimen or one of the bigger fighters in the division, but really, if you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, height-wise, pretty close. Reach-wise, pretty close. Casey moved up, of course, from strawweight to fight at flyweight. The flyweight bid's gone so-so. And you look at Casey's record, I mean, 9-8 so far in the UFC, 5-7. But if you look at the last 5, the Waterson split decision loss. She beat Angela Hill by split decision. She loses to Cynthia Calvillo by unanimous decision. She comes up, beats Mara Romero Borello by submission. Now, Romero Borello... Listen, she's one of those, or Romero Borella, she's one of those fighters where it's either kill or be killed. We're submitting people, we're getting kicked out of Italy, or I'm going to get, submitted.
Yeah.
It worked out for Cortney Casey in that one, and then Casey fought a much better submission artist in Jillian Robertson and got submitted herself. So, and that was a weird fight too, but this is one of those things. Aldrich, we haven't seen her in a while, UFC 246. Again, she definitely is the better striker. It's been about a year. I'm sure she's really worked on that game plan. I mean, again, training out of a great gym, elevation, we talked about it. Martin, Montana De La Rosa, Dobson, good friends with Ashley Yoder, who's also on this card. For Cortney Casey, long, rangy striker, usually keeps her head back. It'd be nice if maybe she threw a few more leg kicks, but you're going to see the more crisp striking out of Aldrich, and we're going to have to see what happens as far as the ground game's concerned. So let's talk about the odds really quick. You look at Cortney Casey, open to plus 145 underdog. She's now plus 124. For JJ Aldrich, open to minus 165, now at a minus 150. And Matt, let's pull up the Tapology votes for fun. 873 of them, 62% Aldrich. 93% by decision, 38% that have Casey, 83% by decision. So the fans are going with Aldrich. The money's on Aldrich. What are you thinking here?
I like Aldrich. I do. I'm not in love with the pick by any means, but I do think her physicality on the feet, her takedown defense, again, it's not elite by any means, but it's not like Cortney Casey, some Division I All-American. She has some good takedowns.
She used to be a soccer player.
She used to be a soccer player, exactly. Very high-level athlete, but I do think JJ Aldrich will be able to win this fight. I see this being primarily a boxing fight. Like you said, the lack of kicks by Casey is going to keep her somewhat in range of Aldrich, and when Aldrich lands on Casey, you are going to see an effect. So I do like JJ Aldrich in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one to try and figure out. Like I said, you got a 9-8 fighter that's had 12 fights in the UFC out of those 9-8, and you look at it. I mean, for Cortney Casey, in 2018, fought twice. Fought once in 2019. Fought twice in 2020. She was supposed to take on Priscilla Cachoeira back in October. Cachoeira couldn't make the weight. We did a prediction video for it. Cortney Casey's just continued to move forward, and I love it. And listen, you beat Mara Romero Borella. Okay, well, that's not the best. You lose to Jillian Robertson. All right, well, now we're kind of separating ourselves. So Casey's definitely, a 20 to 15 type of fighter in a not-so-deep division. JJ Aldrich definitely, has the more shine. We've seen her on the pay-per-view main card, so on and so forth. But I will ever so slightly edge Cortney Casey in this one. I think, again, if it gets down to the mat, Casey's really going to try and grind on JJ Aldrich. If she can tire her out, if she can really kind of land some shots from the bottom. Like, if we can see a game plan from Cortney Casey, and this is going to be a weird one, like we saw out of Yana Kunitskaya when she took on Ketlin Vieira. If you're just doing something, Cortney Casey can get the win here. She's the underdog. I'm going Casey. You're going Aldrich. Really interesting fight in an ever-evolving flyweight division.
Oh, yeah.
Really looking forward to this one. We've got a great card coming up, Matt. I couldn't be more excited for our co-main event. We have the Latvian-Canadian, that is, Misha Serkinov taking on Ryan Spann, and in our main event, Belal Muhammad taking on one really tough out, Leon Edwards. So, keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, Matt. As we always say, let's get into it.